This is huge. Series 7 of the Bricklink Designer program just became the best-selling wave ever, with nearly 149,000 of the 150,000 available sets sold. So what does that mean for the future of BDP? Let's break it down. First, let's start at the beginning. The final 5 sets in the Bricklink Designer program aren't determined purely by votes, which is why we don't end up with 5 4,000-piece castles every single wave. The Bricklink team tries to select from 5 different themes such as castle, trains, Wild West, and so on, while also keeping the average piece count around 2,500 pieces. Because of that structure, we usually see 1 or 2 really popular sets, typically in the castle or medieval fantasy space, sell extremely well, while the others lag behind. But this series was different. Yes, the medieval fantasy themed alchemist shop sold the most at 41,000 copies, but the sushi restaurant and privateer frigate Fortuna were right behind it at 38,000 copies each, which is a much tighter spread than we normally see. All 3 of those sets completely sold out hours before the pre-order window even closed. They didn't just perform well, they pushed the series right up against full production capacity. Meanwhile, the other 2 sets combined sold less than any of the top 3 individually. That tells us something important about the future of BDP. Castle isn't the only theme carrying these waves anymore. For a long time, medieval builds felt like the primary drivers of the program, but Series 7 proves that other themes can compete at the same level when executed well. The sushi restaurant and frigate Fortuna weren't niche hits. AFOLs across the community recognized their build quality and design work, and they performed nearly on par with the top medieval set. Theme definitely affects demand, but quality matters even more. If you look at the recent Series 10 submissions, there were dozens of builds that were on par with or better than sets from earlier waves. Designers are clearly getting better at working within part limits while still creating interesting and detailed models. The biggest difference between mocks and sets is that when you're building a mock, your only limitation is your own collection. You can use tons of tiny pieces to add detail while keeping the footprint small, but LEGO typically tries to maximize size while minimizing part count for cost efficiency. BDP designers have to live somewhere in the middle. They want high detail, but they also have to think about value. A 4,000 piece set that isn't physically large is going to be $300 at a minimum, and that affects demand. A great example of this is the Snowstorm Inn that was submitted for Series 10. It looks fantastic and the detailing is great, but realistically, it won't be voted in because the size is pretty small for over 2,300 parts. If we compare it to this medieval tournament build with over 300 less pieces, there's a lot going on and you get a nice sized display piece, even if there isn't every minute detail that can enhance the build further. What we're seeing now is designers getting better at finding that balance point, and that's leading to stronger submissions and better overall value. Check out my top 25 medieval themed sets from Series 10 if you want to see what I'm talking about. This series sold 148,423 copies out of the 150,000 maximum allotment. If the sushi restaurant, privateer frigate Fortuna, and alchemist shop weren't capped at 38,000 and 41,000 respectively, the total likely would have exceeded that ceiling. Each set technically begins with a 30,000 cap, but as sales trends become clear, the Bricklink team can redistribute allotment from slower selling sets to higher demand ones, which is how those top 3 surpass the limit. This means, at least with the current cap, we actually need some of those more niche sets. If all 5 sets sold at the same pace of the top 3, the entire wave probably would have sold out within the first day. The variation helps distribute production capacity and extend the pre-order window. Smaller sets also tend to sell slightly worse, especially when they're builds that could realistically be parted out fairly easily, and they just don't have the same shelf presence as a large display piece. Don't get me wrong, I think a medieval carriage or the recent medieval theater would sell extremely well, but the castle slot is almost always going to go to a larger set, leaving the medium to small sets for more niche themes or builds. For now, I think the program structure will probably stay the same. This wave came very close to perfectly maximizing its production cap, but the sets were still 100% available for 6 of the 7 pre-order days. Originally, the program only capped sets at 10,000 copies. Before that number was increased in later series. If demand continues to rise, we could eventually see another increase, but at the moment, the system seems to be working well. I'm excited to receive the sets I ordered, and I'm even more excited for future waves. Series 8 begins crowdfunding on June 1st, Series 9 on October 7th, and the finalists for Series 10 will be selected by March 19th. If you want to stay up to date on everything related to the Bricklink Designer program, make sure you're subscribed. Let me know what you picked up from Series 7 and your thoughts on where the program is heading. As always, thank you for watching.